Hey y'all, and welcome to Politabrawl. My name is Brian, and this battle of the Bernies between Bernie Sanders and Bernie Moreno, guess which one comes out on top? I'll give you a hint, it's the one with actual real-world experience who's had an actual job. Let's dive in.
We got three people owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Very richest people are becoming phenomenally richer. Working people are struggling. What's the solution? Well, obviously, the solution is to give massive tax breaks to the rich and make a very bad situation even worse. It is apparently not good enough that the top 1% today own more wealth than the bottom 90%. That is rather phenomenal. But in my Republican colleagues' eyes, the wealthy and the powerful need even more help. 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 90%. Just not good enough. We could do better than that. So not only should the very wealthy be asked to pay their fair share of taxes, the Republicans believe that we should give huge tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires. So what we are looking at right now is a situation where Republicans want to give massive tax breaks to the rich and come up with programs to hurt our kids, our elderly, and working families.
I think we need to kind of go back in time for just a little bit, not quite as much as in Back to the Future. Let's just go back to 2020. There was an election in 2020. The Democrats gained control of the Senate and the White House. And what's been the result? During the 4 years of President Trump, his first term, it was never better for working class Americans. Real wage growth grew. The middle class was doing better. Our economy was doing fantastic. The Republicans had passed the TCJA, which gave tax relief to all Americans. And we received, and this is very important, the federal government received a record amount of revenue. So even though there was tax cuts for the wealthy was the headline. By the way, that line is as old as dirt, and it's totally false. While the tax rates were cut, tax revenue was at a record level. It would be fascinating if there was just one Democrat that acknowledged that we received a record amount of revenue in the federal coffers. You think to yourself, well, wait a second. Like, I'm a business guy. Like, if my revenue was at an all-time high and I was losing money, I'd say we have a huge expense problem. Like, oh my God, how could I get record revenue and yet have record deficits? Why? Because when you give Democrats control of our budget, what happens? I'll give you some examples. When my colleagues talk about how they defend the working class, I think the working class spoke pretty clearly on November 5th of 2024 and said, thank you, but no thank you. So what can happen in my old world of owning car dealerships? Mr. Chairman, you could walk into one of my dealerships, be a multimillionaire, pick out a beautiful custom-made Rolls-Royce Spectre where the audio system upgrade is $21,000. The logoed headrest in the back seat are $1,500. The umbrella with a logo could be 10 grand. You can lease that car. And thanks to the amazing and remarkable policies from the Democrat Party, the federal government will give you a check for $7,500. Think about that for just a second. That is a bill that became law called the Inflation Reduction Act, giving Rolls-Royce lease customers $7,500 lowers inflation, and every one of them voted for that bill. How did that bill become law, you ask? Did it get 60 votes? Rigorous debate? No. They did it through reconciliation. And Kamala Harris broke the tie-breaking vote so that multimillionaires could have their fifth vehicle parked in Palm Beach.
This story gets even crazier when you realize there's only one of two reasons why Democrats would have put this in what was the Build Back, that wasn't Build Back Better, I'm getting that mixed up with another bill. But in the big bill that Joe Biden tried to pass, and unfortunately succeeded, it included the ability for wealthy people to own a Rolls Royce. So here are the two reasons. Either it was A, this was a kickback for wealthy people to lease a vehicle, or B, it was to make a Rolls Royce dollarable for, and I hate using this term, but poor Americans to lease the vehicle and feel like a king for a couple of months. So neither of those are good reasons for a Rolls Royce, a luxury item. That's where the Democrats' real priorities lie. They don't lie with actually lowering taxes for the American people. They care more about these weird kickbacks and all this stuff that used to be called pork barrel spending. And we're just seeing it get worse and worse and worse because that's the only thing that Democrats know to do anymore. And so in this battle of the Bernies, you know which one has actually won this one, okay? It's Bernie Moreno, the dude who is actually a Colombian immigrant. By the way, nearly every single Colombian I've ever met has been amazing. All right, I love Colombians. They're awesome. But he came to the United States, became a naturalized citizen, started working from the ground up, now owns a whole bunch of car dealerships, and he's now a senator from Ohio. I believe he replaced J.D. Vance. And he's been phenomenal. You even have a brief clip of Lindsey Graham just kind of smirking over there in the corner like a proud father, even though that proud father just, has been talking about bombing Iran for the past, 20 years. But Bernie Moreno, in his early stint as a senator, just wrecks Bernie Sanders. Because Bernie Sanders only has one note, and that note has turned so sour that no one wants to play it anymore. No one wants to hear it. It's the idea that it used to be the millionaires and the billionaires. Now it's just the billionaires. I wonder what happened. Did more Americans become millionaires? Or did Bernie become one and he wanted that line gone from his own record? I wonder which takes precedent for him. But Bernie Sanders is not known as a policy wonk. He is not someone that you go to because you know that he's going to write up a good bill. I don't think he's ever gotten one passed. Because the dude cares more about whining, complaining, and moaning over the fact that wealthy people in America exist. Right? And that's just a loser mentality, for lack of a better phrase. And that's why Bernie Sanders keeps losing. Although the Democrats did have to quite literally rig a primary in 2016 so he wouldn't have a shot at being president. Granted, that turned out to be a very good thing because Bernie Sanders would have been a worse president than Hillary Clinton. And the Democrats inherently know it. But they also know that that one note resonates with a huge chunk of their base. So they can't get rid of him, and they have to keep placating that base, despite the fact that that base is, well, off base. Here's the reality about tax cuts. A careful analysis of IRS tax data, one that includes the effects of tax credits and other reforms to the tax codes, showed that filers with an adjusted gross income of $15,000 to $50,000 enjoyed an average tax cut of 16% to 26% in 2018. The first year the Republicans' Tax Cuts and Jobs Act went into effect, and the most recent year for which data is available. Granted, this is an article about Trump's first set of tax cuts, and it's dated back to 2021. In other words, this article from The Hill simply outlines the fact that because of the Trump tax cuts, more people got more money back. All right, they paid less in taxes, and the economy boomed. Folks, this has been a story that we've been seeing work over and over and over again ever since the 1980s, when Americans finally woke up to the fact that the New Deal and the LBJ reforms do not work. Okay? More government nanny state spending doesn't work. Tax cuts, as a matter of fact, seem to be the golden goose. It worked under Reagan. Then Bush the Elder increased taxes and lost an election because of it. Also because of, Ross Perot. Then Bill Clinton was forced to come back to the table. He started off as a borderline crazed leftist for his first 2 years, and then the Republican Revolution of '94 happened, and they brought him back to the table and forced him to be fiscally conservative. And it worked. George W. Bush the Younger, cut taxes, and it worked. It worked so well that Barack Obama, Mr. Hoping Change himself, kept those tax cuts in place, even with a Democrat-controlled Congress and Senate. And then this article also helps prove that the Trump tax cuts the first time around. Also, we got to thank Paul Ryan for writing this bill. If you don't want to thank him for anything else, I don't blame you, but you got to thank him for this one. And this tax cut ended up benefiting the American middle class. But there was one Achilles heel with the bill. It was set to expire in the 2020s. And unfortunately, Joe Biden got into office and had enough political capital to keep these tax cuts around, but not have the next set of tax cuts come to place. That's why we had to fight so hard for the big, beautiful bill in order to undo the problems of the Joe Biden campaign. So Bernie Sanders isn't just off base in this video, he is wildly out of reality. Okay? He is whining about billionaires all because he's jealous that he isn't one. This current policy ends up working every single time. And Bernie Moreno ends up calling out the Democrats on their clear hypocrisy because they're having their own weird tax cuts for wealthy people and for Rolls Royces, of all things. At least the Democrats could buy American. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.